Welcome to Black Art is Lit. I'm your host, Nykieria, and this week we're diving into Sinful by Victor McGlothin, a novel that is as playful as it is scandalous. You ever think you got something all under control, only to realize that the biggest threats don't always come from the outside? Sometimes the trouble is right in your own home, or worse, sitting across the family dinner table. And from the very first chapters, Sinful pulls us into a world where love, loyalty, and trust are put to the ultimate test. It's one thing to fight for your marriage, but what happens when the battle isn't just between you and your spouse? When familiar faces become unexpected enemies? Let's get into it. Everybody's got a weakness, and Chandelle Hutchins is a love of material possessions, a love that is causing serious trouble in her marriage. Chandelle's latest object of desire is an expensive new house. Her husband Marvin knows they can't afford it, and he also knows he can't talk Chandelle into giving it up. With their relationship crumbling under a mountain of debt, it may just be easier for Marvin to walk away. But with Chandelle's scheming cousin Dior in town, money may be the least of the couple's problems. Dior's weakness is her insatiable appetite for causing trouble, and her latest target is her cousin's marriage. When the time is right, Dior would like nothing more than to seduce Marvin on the rebound. But Dior is being trailed by her own troublemaker, a crazed female employer who refuses to release Dior from her twisted duties as nanny to her children and late-night mistress to her kinky husband. Fortunately, for everyone involved, the Lord works in mysterious ways. For despite a tangle of lies, manipulation, and mayhem, a series of unexpected events is about to bless everyone with a much-needed second chance. Everybody's got a weakness, was Dior's quiet proclamation. Sighing wearily, she stared at her ragged reflection captured by the dusty hanging wall mirror inside of the tiny room at the Happy Horizons mental care facility where she'd been sentenced for psychiatric evaluation. The difference with me is, Dior continued to herself, I claim mine and I ain't never tried to put it off on nobody else. After sweeping her hair in desperate need of professional attention underneath the baseball cap her favorite cousin Chandelle had brought along, Dior smirked at her tired expression. Her eyes seemed darker, murkier than she remembered them. But her flawless cinnamon brown complexion and attractive features hadn't waned one iota. She was still just as fine as she was when they checked her in and took her belt and shoelaces away. You're a wicker too, Chandelle, Dior spouted adamantly. Or else you used to be. Deep down, where it makes every bit of a difference, you still are. So don't go thinking that swooping me from this giggling factory on my early release day makes you any better than me. Dior sighed again, turning away from the image of a troubled 25-year-old with a pretty face. She placed the last of her personal belongings into a stolen designer travel bag and then snapped her fingers in a snooty chop-chop fashion. Get that bag for me, Chandelle, before they try to hold me for the full 2-week bid. I wasn't loony when that stupid judge sent me here, but I swear I ain't wrapped too tight now. Go ahead on and get that bag off the bed. It's checkout time. You ain't that crazy. Chandelle chuckled under her breath as Dior paused to sneak another glimpse of her tightly fitted low-rise jeans in the filthy mirror. Look, Dior, you're my girl as well as my blood, but you're gonna have to be up in here a lot longer than 11 days for me to feel sorry enough to be your personal valet. I don't even carry my own bags. Dior's attempts to obtain her closest friend's pity didn't go over well because Chandelle was one of the two people who often knew her better than she did herself. The other person was Dior's fraternal twin, Dooney. I know you have issues, but they have nothing to do with me, Chandelle contended. You're the one who, she began to say before realizing her own words waxed judgment. About one thing, it is way past time to get you out of here. Chandelle, the color of ginger peach and fashion model tall, with the looks to match, stood up from the cloth-covered chair placed by the door. Although she tried mightily to avoid the inevitable, it was utterly impossible. She found herself primping the chic, angular hairstyle framing her face in the same dirty mirror. Chandelle's stunning beauty, beset by round brown eyes and anchored by full, voluptuous lips, beamed back at her with a brilliant, approving smile. Yeah, just as I suspected, beauty knows no bounds. If you ask me, they had the wrong one locked up. Dior heckled from the hallway. Come on, cuz, let's get out of here. I'm hungry for some real food, something dumped in grease. Oh, D, that's the sanest thing I've heard all day. Let me get your bag. Chapter 1, Exodus. The brisk fall Dallas air brushed against Chandelle's cheeks, "It's too cold to be early October," she shrieked. The mink jacket she slid out of a slick plastic covering from the trunk of her car, the one she sufficiently convinced herself that she couldn't live without, hugged her shoulders as they approached the front doors of the Alley Cat and restaurant and parking lot. Dior caught the hint. She peered over the hood of the car at the dark brown collection of expensive and escalating debt. Chandelle sashayed casually in the ridiculously overpriced fur as if the hefty bill, including a truckload of finance charges, wouldn't be arriving in her mailbox within a week. "Look at what the cat drug in," Dior howled. "That's a nice coat." She stepped around the front of Chandel's 2-year-old Volvo to run her fingers along the velvety sleeves. Soft as cotton too? Who boosted it for you?" Highly offended, Chandelle was outdone. "Boosted? Don't get the way I do business mixed up with how you handle yours. I don't get my hands dirty like that anymore. And if I did, I wouldn't appreciate you putting it out there like that." After Dior smacked her lips, she turned her nose up at Chandel's refusal to pay the drastically discounted prices for stolen goods like she had done in the past. "I was just saying, I know Marvin didn't let you run up his credit cards with no department store meat. Even I'm smarter than that." Chandelle flipped the collar over her ears and huffed. "Shows how little you know. Marvin didn't let me because he doesn't know about it yet," she thought. "Let me deal with my husband. He doesn't tell me what I can buy with my own money," she contended in an irritated tone. Still fuming over having been chastised by a streetwise headache after their entrees were delivered, Chandelle quietly picked over a deep-fried fish basket while Dior dove into hers face first. Instead of listening to her cousin recount the events that landed her inside of the county-funded facility for observation, she was having second thoughts of treating herself to the exotic jacket now saturated with oily catfish odors. It was all right, Dior explained, only what she was willing to share. There was always incriminating details she'd purposely leave out. And despite how often Dior managed to get herself caught up in a web, it was never under any circumstances her fault. See, what had happened was, the trick of a store manager couldn't hold off long enough to see things from my standpoint. It would have been cool if he'd just listened to me and then let me bounce. Besides, it was a victimless crime anyway. After being poked and pinched in that loony bin they put me in, I'm the victim. With the half-eaten hush puppy in one hand, Dior used the other to illustrate how she had been wronged yet again by the system. Although she was caught dead to rights, shoplifting in a department store restroom. 14 sets of lingerie items in assorted sizes were stuffed inside her jogging suit when an employee began pounding on the door. Dior's eyes had bugged out at the realization of serving jail time popped in her head. That was a fate worse than death as far as she was concerned. Knowing that the jig was up, she worked as feverishly as she could, putting back the bunched undergarments out of her pants while reattaching them to the hanger scattered about the floor. "Just 1 minute," she pleaded before a large white man opened the door with his master key. When Dior heard him warn that he was coming in, she acted fast. She snatched her jogging pants down past her knees and plopped down on the toilet. The scream she hurled at him reverberated throughout the women's clothing section of the store. "Get out," she shrieked. "Police, police." Immediately detained in the manager's office, Dior readily explained how she never felt so violated before that, and she never intended on stealing a single garment, but rather how she innocently taken the items to the restroom during the fleeting hours of a once-a-year sale because she couldn't risk losing her great finds to other shoppers with similar tastes. Soon enough, the police arrived, heard Dior's outrageous story, and as quickly as they appeared, sped away with her handcuffed in the back seat of their squad car. She pled her case vehemently while traveling downtown for central booking. "I'm serious, officer," she clamored loudly. "I couldn't wait for a store employee to come and watch the clothes for me because I got a condition, a weak bladder." After being reassured that the officers had no plans for letting her go, she decided to build a case for insanity by leaving a urine sample on the violent seats of their squad cars. "You know what, Chandelle? I ought to sue," Dior contemplated. From the other side of a fork full of fries, "I just might win too. You know I can lie real good. I can make a stupid bunch of jurors believe me like I fooled that judge who signed my crazy papers instead of sending me to county." Chandelle sat across the table. She stared at Dior as if she had been released too soon. "Don't tell me you thought you could pee your way out of that too." "Why wouldn't I?" she questioned. Wetting her pants had gotten Dior out of numerous tight spots before, and it still worked. How many times are you going to use that stupid defense as a get-out-of-jail-free card? Until they take it away. Dior answered quickly. "That pill-popping palace they call Happy Horizons is the closest I've ever gotten to doing real time. Well, except for that one night when I almost got snatched up. That cop caught me behind that nightclub trying to get back in good with Kevin. Girl, I had my skirt hiked up when he shined the light on us. Shoot, I squatted so fast it nearly ruined the officer's shoes. Sure did. Told the law how Kevlin was back there to keep a lookout so nobody would bother me. The same bad bladder scheme was on and popping then too. You're getting too old to be showing out like that with Kevlin. That's what you think. Dior smarted back. I'll never be too old to hike up my skirt whenever I feel like it. You are too old to be doing it in the back of alleys with some brother who won't have call you afterward. And after all the scheming you're doing so stuck has gotten you tossed into that asylum. Dior, nobody even knew where you were until you called me today begging for me to come pick you up. That's why I had to go about it that route. I couldn't risk you or Dooney showing up there talking about she ain't crazy, just too simple. That's been the bad rap all my life and I don't deserve it. I'm just misunderstood. You mean misdiagnosed? Whatever. You say potato, I say tomato. Chandelle glanced up when she replayed Dior's mishandling of the common cliche. You mean potato? Why would I say the same thing twice? That's stupid. Yeah, and so is this conversation. Chandelle replied, realizing it about 30 minutes too late. She massaged her temples with all 10 fingers, agonizing over the slim chances of returning a mink coat that reeked of deep fried fish. Since Dior didn't elaborate on how she successfully proved to clinically trained psychologists that she wasn't harmful to herself or others, but not likely to harbor the propensity for shoplifting either, Chandelle assumed she pulled off yet another ruse, whereby urinating her way out of it. Unfortunately, this time around, Happy Horizons was only the beginning. Chandelle fought with further attacking her cousin's dirty deeds while maneuvering through the streets of Dallas. She wondered if beating a dead horse would have amounted to much, if anything, in the way of setting the mixed-up sister straight. When Dior insisted that Chandelle zoom past her apartment, she didn't question it until they were speeding off in the other direction. "What's gotten into you?" she yelled, glancing in the rearview mirror. "Just keep driving," Dior cried out, whipping her head around to see if they were being followed. "Make a left up there at the corner." Chandelle did just that. She kept her foot on the gas pedal and followed directions until entering a drug-infested neighborhood off the interstate. On the outer ring of a densely cluttered assortment of aging apartment complexes, commonly referred to as Crack City by the local police, Chandelle pulled her car into a convenience store parking lot and then slammed on the brakes. "I've been quiet long enough, D. This is as far as I go until you tell me what's got you too scared to set foot in your own spot and has me all jacked up and ready to jet from this one. I'm trying not to end up on the news gunned down in a drug bust gone bad." "It's not that serious, Chandelle," Dior argued. Although reluctant to face her, with her head down, she fiddled with the suede tassels hanging from her Navajo Indian-style purse. "You wouldn't understand it if I told you, so I won't even try." Now, Chandelle was seething too much to lay eyes on her salty passenger. "So that's just it? I just spared the scene like some kind of fugitive for justice, and that's the best you can come up with to justify it? I'm not moving another inch unless you tell me what you're running from and why you chosen this crack alley of all places to hide. You're lucky, Chandelle, always have been. You might no longer be what you used to be, but I am. This thing hanging over me ain't up for discussion. Feel me on this. Pop, pop, bang. It's dead and buried. Trying to go home again was my fourth mistake of the day, so please let it rest in peace." Chandelle's lip pursed into a firmer pucker. "Fine. If you want to go at your demons alone, then so be it. I'll drop you off, but don't come beating down my door when Kevin decides to throw you out with tomorrow's trash." When Dior's eyes widened, Chandelle laughed. "Huh. Sure, I knew you would have been creeping back to him every chance you get. You never again don't hold any weight with me, baby girl. I'm still slicker than you'll ever be without even breaking a sweat, so save it. All I needed was one time for a man to paint me stupid and then go upside my head because I called him on it. That grew me up real quick, fast, and in a hurry. We'll play it your way, but this is where I get off of your constant collision with catastrophe. You need to grow up too and get your head on straight before Kevin decides to knock a hole in it." A sigh escaped from Dior's lips, making it apparent to Chandelle that the words she spoke were ignored. Dior's eyes gradually rose to meet Chandelle's icy glare. "What makes you think I want to grow up, huh? What makes you think that just because you made college and marriage work, that I want the same things? Besides, ain't no guarantees. Chandelle, not a sister like me. What am I supposed to grow up and get shackled down to some brother selling toasters for a living while trying to make a slave out of me? I already know I don't look cute chained to a stove. You just keep on pressing your luck, trying to get it over without really putting in the work," Chandelle said, before issuing a stern warning. "And you got one more time to criticize my man. You're right. My bad. Going on over there about Marvin. But don't forget, I've done the 9 to 5 thing and it didn't suit me. My heels were too long, my lunch breaks were too short, folks didn't like my clothes being too tight, and somebody was always complaining about something I was doing wrong. Listen to me close, I can't do the square life and can't use no square love. Caught between a hard head and her better judgment, Chandelle refused to let Dior's difficulties in the workplace go unchallenged. That may be so, but every black woman deals with the same issues until they realize it's not always about us. I wasn't gonna say anything, but you know what you sound like talking all pitiful and woefulness? I know who you bet not be thinking of, Dior spat ferociously. Leave her out of this. I'm not gonna end up like Billy. Her mother was doing a 10-year bid in the state penitentiary on a welfare food stamp charge. Dior had yet to forgive her for getting caught. Hustling was a way of life she'd grown accustomed to, but a woman leaving her family behind was unacceptable under any circumstances. Dior, you might not plan to, but that's where the road you're headed down leads. Me, I love being a square. Need I remind you that you're in my whip? My square job and my square husband helped to keep me rolling in it? Thank God. Whatever, I'm just saying. Can't do the square thing. Here's a note for you, cousin. We all have to grow up sooner or later. I hear you, just ain't ready yet. Anyways, all that stunting I do, it's cool because it's like I heard you say, that God of yours knows my heart. Listen at you. He knows your heart. That's another reason for you to check yourself out because he does know about the stuff you're too ashamed to tell me. After Chandelle got her dig in, she backed out of the small parking lot and proceeded toward the apartment she's sworn to never revisit, Kevin's den. I can't believe I'm doing this, she huffed. Nothing good can come from getting mixed up with him again. He's a snake poison. Bump that, Chandelle. Kevin said he was sorry and that's what's up. Let me out so I can get what I've been dreaming about for almost 2 weeks. Dior hopped out and wrestled her bag down the walkway to an open gazebo-style, beige-colored brick building with 3 doors on either side. She knocked at the nearest door on the right. When a yellow-toned, muscle-bound man wearing a long gangster perm and sagging blue jeans opened it, Dior's eyes floated up in a begging please take me in manner. Chandelle, looking on from the street, shook her head disapprovingly. Kevin's expression was undecipherable to Chandelle as he stared at Dior and her bag resting at his doorstep. Then he leaned out to clock whoever was watching their reunion from the red Volvo idling in the road. Yeah, I'm the one who told Dooney you were putting hands on his twin. The same one who's responsible for him posting you up at that car wash and had you crying like a little punk, Chandelle thought, as she rolled down the window so he could see her face clearly, displaying her unmistakable contempt for him and men like him. Yeah, the stitches and the lumpy hospital bed, that was all me. After mean mugging Chandelle like he wanted to return the favor, Clevin nodded and his head respectfully instead, pecked Dior on the lips, and then ushered her inside. That's what I thought, Chandelle mouthed triumphantly, before making a fast U-turn to get out of the area as quickly as possible. Although Dior was willing to brave the climate of the low-rent apartment district, she wasn't in the mood to reminisce on the life she led before leaving it all where it belonged, in the past. Chapter 2, At the Job. Appliance World, a second-rate retail operation, thrived in the midst of mammoth-sized chain stores, dwarfing it on both sides. When the owner, Larry Mercer, learned that 2 appliance giants wanted his location near the busy freeway, he held out for more money. Unfortunately, his plan backfired. Instead of making another lofty offer to purchase his property, each built stores on either side and squeezed him in the middle. Weeks before Mr. Mercer was forced to pull the plug on his family business, Chandelle's husband, Marvin, walked through the front door to price a blender. The salesman on duty had neither salesmanship skills nor an appreciation for customers. After overhearing Marvin explain how that was a leading reason most people were reluctant to do business with African Americans, who expected to succeed simply because their doors were open, Mr. Mercer took a good look at the attractive medium brown shopper and quickly offered him an assistant manager's position on the spot. Marvin's first order of business was scheduling training classes for all 8 of the slacker salespeople. 3 years later, Mr. Mercer was happily making money hand over fist because of Marvin's diligence and training techniques. The fact that he still held the same position at the same salary grade both made Chandelle very unhappy. She wanted him to be more of a corporate mogul instead of an aspiring store manager of Appliance World. She also kept after him to trade in his khaki pants and navy short sleeve pullover uniform for a sleek designer suit. Marvin's business degree hadn't produced much in the way of options, but Chandelle didn't give up hope. Her husband would be important someday. She'd see that too. Oddly enough, Marvin was the type to fight sudden change head on. Although he loved Chandelle, it was her constant bouts of impulsivity and ongoing propensity to own a lot more than she could afford that he couldn't stand. At 7:05 p.m., Marvin's cell phone rang. With the semi-annual sale running at top speed, he was glad to have a moment to himself. He laid down the remnants of a half-eaten bologna sandwich, his third of the day, in order to wrestle the tiny handheld from his belt holder. "Hello, this is Marvin," he answered, wiping crumbs from his thin mustache as if the caller could see him in disarray. Yeah, Kim, I have a minute. Thanks for returning my page." The empty break room at the rear of the store watched him smile. Nearly 20 years had lapsed since he'd seen her, Kim Hightower. But he couldn't shake the image of a beautiful 18-year-old prom queen he carried a serious torch for, along with over 1,000 other managed boys at John Quinn High. Now an accomplished realtor, Kim was back in his life to help him and Chandelle find their first dream house. The thought of his lovely wife catching a glimpse of him gushing over another woman pushed that eager grin from his lips. "Good," Kim replied. "I'm very excited to be working with an old schoolmate. But I'll have to be honest, Marvin, I can't seem to remember you." "Anywho," Kim continued, "we can catch up tomorrow. And just so you know, I have selected 6 very nice properties for you and the missus to review. Based on your emails, there should be something she likes in the bunch. If not, we'll keep going until we stumble onto something that she does." "You found 6 very nice houses in our price range?" Marvin asked, somewhat surprised. "I thought Chandelle's list of must-haves would have sent you running in the other direction." "A lesser realtor might have, but that's why you referred to me. Like you, I have a reputation for exceeding expectations. Finding a home with the perfect amenities is the key." When Kim sensed Marvin was blushing with pride, she laid it on a little thicker. "Oh, you're not the only one who does their homework. Mr. Mercer is lucky to have you running the store from what I hear. Just make sure you have that pretty wife of yours at my office around 9 in the morning so I can show you how I do my thing." "Confident, I like that," he said, nodding his head assuredly. "We'll be there." Marvin closed his flip phone, tossed the brown lunch bag into the trash can, and then exited the break room feeling 10 feet tall. He was not only looking forward to being the first man in the family to purchase a home, he also wanted to give Chandelle what she wanted all her life, a castle fit for a queen. While easing through the long, dimly lit corridor, separating the warehouse from the showroom floor, Marvin stopped. Something moved, a heavy refrigerator wrapped inside of a tight box. He circled around, expecting to offer extra muscle to an employee carrying it to the delivery dock. He knew it was a mistake when a full pair of breasts greeted him instead. "Uh-oh," he hooted, embarrassed for himself, as well as the woman whose dress Mr. Mercer had his hands rummaging beneath. "My bad, y'all." Marvin apologized, although reluctant to turn away from the erotic scene. "Mr. Mercer, I had no idea you were back here with..." "Well, now that you do know," the store owner barked, "get up to the front and make sure everybody is selling something on the floor." Marvin stared at his boss, a raisin shade of brown and smaller than him in size. But the man was determined to prove his manhood before granting the full-figured female his usual half-off discount in exchange for her services rendered. "Don't make me say it again, Marvin," Mr. Mercer grunted quietly. "Looks like you're about to get into something that might get you cut by Mrs. Mercer," Marvin thought. "Yes, sir, I see, and please believe me, I ain't saying nothing to nobody. It's like they say, don't ask, don't tell." Mr. Mercer glared at Marvin viciously. "Just say it, walking." Marvin did what his boss demanded, like he had done too many times to count, although sneaking another peek at the woman. Impressive half-off coupons. He went on about his business, trying to forget the owner's best attempt to handle this. Customers looking for deals scurried throughout the showroom like ants at a picnic. Marvin loved the busy store because of the opportunity to make higher commissions. He noticed a familiar face among the crowd, one that always made him glad he married Chandelle. The face belonged to her cousin Dooney. He couldn't wait to visit with his favorite customer, who never bought a single thing. But first he had to make a slick managerial maneuver. He thought as he seen Lim, a young salesman in training, was headed out back to check inventory. Marvin placed his hand on the young man's shoulder to stop him. "What's up, Lim?" "Just hustling to make another sale just like you taught me," he answered proudly. "I'm going to see if we have any more of those stainless steel side-by-sides, the big unit." "It's a big unit back there, but not the one you're looking for." "That's going to have to wait. Mr. Mercer is doing inventory in the warehouse," he lied. "And he doesn't want to be disturbed. It shouldn't take too long, though. He's pretty fast at this sort of thing." Lim, a lanky 20-year-old kid, looked up at Marvin and then smirked. "Please don't tell me old man Mercer's in the hole again, pushing up on another customer to get him some discount booty." "That's not what I said, but you can't interrupt him, and you do need to respect the man's need for privacy." "Whatever, Marvin. That's a dirty old dude and you know it. Let me know when he's done. I need this sale." Cool, I paid you on the intercom to the warehouse when I see him come out. Stall the customer until then. Show the new business office executive cooler line. Nobody wants to pop for everybody likes the presentation. If you need me to jump in, I'll be around. Lim dashed off to locate the customers he left with their faces shoved inside a lift-top deep freezer. Marvin struck out the other direction. He wasn't up for standing guard over Mercer's evening rendezvous. If another associate busted him like he had, that was just too bad. I'll take 2 of everything, Dooney hollered when he saw Marvin approaching. He was the same shade of cinnamon as his sister Dior. Handsome, nearly 6 feet, slight of build but wiry. Always dressed in starched jeans, pressed button-up shirts worn outside of them, and neatly polished hard-soled shoes. Dooney's cornrows seemed out of place until he opened his mouth. Then rock-solid evidence of the hard streets that helped mold him came pouring out. What you know good, kinfolk? Lying, Marvin replied while shaking his friend's hand. Hey, hold on, we'll get back to that, Dooney said, putting off the conversation he planned on spending with Marvin. He returned to the one he started with, the curvy, thick-hipped employee with her nose in the air. Back to you, can continue flirting. You say your name is Rika? For real? Is that like Eureka? Cause I'm on time for that whole sweating, digging, getting dirty thing. Funny, you don't look as foolish as you sound. Don't waste your dreams on me. Whatever you think this is, it ain't, she spat, crossing her arms. Marvin, get your cousin. Call his parole officer or something. He's harmless, Rika, Marvin chuckled. But I'll hip him to the news for you. The young woman swung her hips in his face, then sashayed away to offer him a lengthy gaze at what she determined was out of his league. Dooney's eyes locked onto her behind like a guided missile. Man, that's all to the good. Rika, I've got to remember that. Nah, you can forget that, argued Marvin. Rika's got her college papers filling herself and she's too uptight to give a brother like you a swat at it. All I need was one. I know that much, he laughed. Hoo-wee. She's fully grown like a bison, one of them buffaloes on the Western movie channel. After amusing himself on the buffalo analogy, Dooney recalled what Marvin insinuated in his last comment. Hey man, what you mean a brother like me? When his question was returned with the "we both know you've been locked up" sneer, he digressed. Okay, I see what you're screaming, but she don't know, not necessarily. Dooney, what exactly are you rolling through on the busiest day of the year to do? Who, me? I'm browsing. I figured with the sale and your friends and family and 15% off the back end, it gotta be something up in here I could splurge on. All right then, get at me if you come up with whatever that something might be. Straight up, I'll do that. Rather get back to this hunting expedition I was on when you crept up. The associate he was smiling with sauntered near a stack of DVDs to reshelve. Wait, Rika, you dropped this. It's your ghetto pass. They won't let you back into the projects without it. Marvin, get him, she shrieked. Dooney, let the girl work now. She's on the clock. And I'm on time for that, Marvin. I'm just gonna bend her ear a minute and see what snaps back. Marvin saw that look in his eyes, the one insinuating he was in a hurry to see Rika getting undressed. Dooney. And that is Sinful by Victor McGlothin. The first 2 chapters is what we just finished reading, where we had an opportunity to meet Dior, an interesting character just getting out of Happy Horizons, a place that she was able to slick herself into to stop from going to jail for shoplifting. Her cousin Chandelle, who has a healthy shopping appetite that may be a little bit over what she can afford. Her husband Marvin, who is the assistant manager at a store, who may not be treated fairly. He hasn't had a raise in all that time. However, he's managed to keep the store from going under, even when being dwarfed by other larger buildings. And then you have the fun, playful Dooney, who he came in with his own street smarts, and he looks like he's looking for way more than just appliances. So we definitely can see things are going to be a little bit messy, and I'm sure that there will be some lines crossed and there's some things that's going to get shook up. But the question is, who's really pulling the strings and who's going to set things afire, as we can say. But again, that is Victor McGlothin's Sinful. I greatly appreciate you guys for tuning in and listening to us. We've had an opportunity this season to cover cast. We sort of got into some great books. We did Monday's Not Coming on one of our previous episodes. We did Black AF. So if you haven't listened to those episodes, please go back and cover them. Encourage you to please share the show with a friend. You can find us on Amazon Music. We're on Apple. We're on Spotify. Pretty much all the places that you can get your podcast or where you listen to them at. You can follow us as well on TikTok. That's Black Art is Lit. And you can follow me on all major platforms. I'm at Nykieria. That's at Nykieria. Thank you. And as always, remember, Black Art